Hi, I'm here to talk to you a bit about advocacy. And when I talk about advocacy, what I'm really talking about is knowledge. You need knowledge when you're talking to the people that you're going to meet over the school years. You need to be able to know what the processes are so that you're on equal footing with them. So when I do talk about knowledge, I talk about it in a couple of different ways. I talk about knowledge about your son or daughter. I'll get back to that and explain that a bit more. I talk about knowledge about the processes, the rules, the policies. There's a lot of stuff out there for you. I talk about knowing who the people are, because you're going to come across a heck of a lot of people. And I talk about knowing what you can do to help. So let's start off with knowing your son or daughter. Let's face it, they've grown up with you. You know what their talents are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are, what they dislike, what they are very good at. You know all that stuff. So that's information you're going to want to convey. You also know your son and daughter and whether or not they can advocate for themselves. And you're going to want to use that at one point or another. If someone can talk for themselves, let them talk for themselves, because it's a very powerful tool, and it gives people the power of expression just like they should have here. When I talk about knowing the different policies and procedures out there, let's go right to the beginning. Whatever your school board is at, take a look at their website and find the IPRC guide, find the IEP guide, take a look at those and read those. Those will walk you through some of the processes that are involved. Now, these guides that are on your board's website, they're also on the provincial government website as well. And they should mirror each other, so you can look at either or. The advantage to looking at the provincial site is that they also talk about the policies and the procedures and memorandums, and so it's good to know all that stuff. So whenever you have a question about something that's happening in the school system, you can go back to those sites and check them out, and I'd strongly recommend that you do that here. So you've gone in and you've looked at your IPRC book here, and so now it's time for the IPRC. If it's been done, great. Make sure you review it. Make sure it's what's been said is going to happen here. Know that in doing an IPRC, you can agree with it or disagree with it, or after 30 days, you can appeal it. But that's the start of the process, so you want to make sure you're aware of that. If the IPRC has not happened, then what I would do is you write it and request it from the principal. That's part of the process again. If they haven't taken that initiative, you take that initiative. And sometimes you have to do that. As much as we like to think everybody's sharp and on the ball and moving things along, sometimes you have to push things along. So you've requested the IPRC, great. Before you even do that, what I suggest is you go and you ask to meet with the principal. Talk to him about the IPRC process. Talk to him about who's involved, who are the people that are going to be involved in that. Because again, this will just help you know who you are talking to. Plus, it may help you decide that you may want to bring someone to that IPRC process as well. So do that. Once the IPRC process is done, you have an idea of the school, go to the school. Go and meet people, go and tour the school. Do all that, meet the teacher, share information about your son and daughter with the teacher and the principal. Again, you're trying to start things off on a good foot here, so people know who people are, and the process will hopefully be much smoother here. When it comes to things like the IEP, be involved in that process. IPRC, IEP, always be involved. Know that you can have a say in that. Often what will happen is sometimes if you don't go to these meetings, a piece of paper will come home with your son and daughter and they'll ask you to sign it. And I'll be honest, I've done that in the past. I've just signed them in the past with my own child. Knowing what I know now, be at those meetings. Add to them, write on them before you sign anything. Be part of. So always be part of that process. So that's sort of talking about knowing what the rules are. And like I say, go back to that Ministry of Ontario website, or depending on what province you're in, but definitely that would be what I would do, because that will be the information that you'll need to get you through the different parts of things here. Then it's knowing who the people are. So you're going to come across a lot of people. So you want to know who the principal is, vice principal, who the teacher is. Are there any itinerant teachers that are going to be involved? Do they have any special consultants that might help with transition planning? You want to know all the players in that particular aspect. Because one, that tells you who you're going to go to in regard to the specific issue, but also like any place else, there's a hierarchy. And you want to be able to work with people, so know the proper level to go to at the proper time here. Again, the more you know them and they know you, then they know your child better. To me, that's all positive here. You're also going to want to know who your local service coordinator is or navigator, if you have one. Because these are people that can provide you with information about the system and how the system works. And these are people who can often stand beside you in these meetings or stand alongside you in these meetings here. They're a great resource. If you're not don't have a service coordinator, often there is a local association who you might be able to call for assistance. If issues are sort of on the difficult side or escalating, you certainly can look at organizations like Arch Legal Services here. So there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. If you look at sites like Developmental Services Ontario, there's information there about transition planning and helping your child through school. So there's a lot of different resources out there. So take a look at who there are. Also know that your local board has a SEAC. This Special Education Advisory Committee. There are also people on there that you can approach and ask questions of if you're not too sure on how that process is particularly working here. So there are a lot of different people you can approach. One of the last areas I talk about is what can you do as a parent as far as knowledge and sharing that knowledge that you have. Again, I said earlier, you know your son and daughter inside and out. So you want to share that information with the teachers and the principal and everybody, because that's going to give them a start on what to work on, what to plan on here. So please definitely do that part. When you go to these meetings, bring any transition planning documents you have, any IEPs you have, all that stuff. I suggest you keep that all in a binder and keep a running binder. We'd like to assume that information is transferred over to teachers. That's not necessarily the case. So it's good for you to have that information to bring in with you. When it comes to stuff like IEPs, it's an important document to have. What most people don't realize is usually it's an electronic document and it's stored electronically, and sometimes it doesn't get looked at. So you bring that information with you because you don't want to duplicate things as well. You know, you just don't want that to happen. So bring that to that. Don't hesitate to introduce the school to your service navigator or coordinator if you have them as well. By law, agencies and schools are supposed to be working together on your son's and daughter's transition planning, so it's good for everybody to know everybody. But it's also good because sometimes agencies may know something that a teacher may not know, so it's a sharing of information and working together on that particular aspect. Definitely go and attend every meeting. It shows you're interested. If you can't attend, talk to them on the phone. So there are a number of things you can do in that aspect, and I encourage you to do on that aspect. But yeah, definitely knowledge is the key.